Hi, welcome to the What If Wishes podcast. I am Laura Gibby, your host. I am so excited that you're here today, and thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate each and every one of you. It's exciting for me to know that there is someone out there who wants to hear my words, and I love it. And I hope that there is something that will resonate inside with you that will bring you joy. So thank you for being a part of this podcast today. Today I wanted to talk about the difference between actually habit, routine, and ritual. And I find this very interesting because initially I was going to talk about routines and rituals, and then I started thinking about it more. And really, all of these things start with your habits. So when you start a habit, you're beginning a routine. That's like the initial stages of a routine. Initiating a habit is kind of like you're starting to build on that. I'm going to create something that I would like to continue doing over and over. Hopefully you like continuing doing it over and over, because I know we all have a few bad habits. But as you start new habits, try to set the intention of making it a good habit. And a habit, as you start putting more of your energy into it, it becomes a routine. It becomes something that you will do daily usually. It becomes something that is a way of life within you. And then as you work that routine into more intention, mindfulness, setting more of your spirit aside for it, I guess I would even say, it turns into a ritual. And what I mean by that is you really start becoming more aware of the energy you're putting into it. You're becoming more aware of the sacredness of how you've built your habit to routine to something that is so meaningful to you. So let's see. My example would be creating my morning routine. I had read a book, The Miracle Morning is what it's called, I believe. And it was a really cool book. It talks about creating a 60-minute morning routine and breaking it down into 6 sections. They're 10-minute sections each. And I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to start waking up earlier to set aside 60 minutes for my morning routine and do the 10 different things that the author talks about. So I started that. And actually it was kind of ironic because the more I woke up earlier, then my son woke up earlier too. And so I was waking up at 4:30 and he was trying to wake up at 4:30 too. And I was like, wait, this isn't the way to go about it. But initially, when I started working into this, it was a habit that I started because I wanted to journal more. I might not have been doing it every day, but I was starting the practice of journaling. I actually have been journaling probably since I was in high school. But over the years, I've taken breaks and I finally got back into it, doing little bits and pieces at a time. So that would have been my habit that I initiated. The routine is when I started doing my morning exercises every day, I guess you could say. So I didn't actually stick with this 60-minute routine. My routine changed into something else. And that's kind of what happens when you start a routine. Like, for getting ready for school, we wake up, I make my son breakfast, we brush our teeth, we get dressed, we go to school, right? But in other houses, it could be a totally different routine, but there's still usually a pattern behind what you are doing to get out the door. And so my morning routine transitioned into 10 to 15 minutes of meditation, journaling, looking into just kind of reflecting on what was going on in my life. And then sometimes I would read a book after for maybe a chapter or so. I would try and keep it kind of short and not get lost in the book because that would take up way more time than I had specifically set aside for this. So my routine transitioned into a ritual when I started putting more mindfulness and resonating with it and really feeling the intent behind it, the structure behind it, the spirituality for me that I started putting into it, just how it really put a tone into my way of life. And I was so much more aware of how I walked through my day as a result. So now it's turned into 15 minutes of meditation. And then when I journal, it's transitioned to where I will write down things that I choose to believe today, things that I declare will happen, for my goals or maybe within my day or for my week, things like that. And then I usually will reach out to my higher self, whatever higher power you consider your higher power, whether it's God, source, or spirit, and my spirit guides and angels. And I will ask them, what is my inspired action for today? And I will write down just anything that pops in my head and be mindful of what I'm doing throughout the day if it's aligning with what came in for me. And usually after that, I might just write and reflect what's going on in my life, or even fall down a rabbit hole of just things that I'm thinking about. It's so interesting how the power of journaling, when you really start journaling, it shifts. It turns into a pattern, but it also gets so creative. It gets so interesting. So, I love how I've transitioned that routine into a ritual, because it really, really resonates for me on a really deep level. And that's huge for how I walk throughout my day. And then at night, my ritual would be taking time for gratitude. I have a gratitude journal. It's a pretty thin little book, but it's because I'm not there to write my thoughts and reflections from the day. It's for me to give thanks for my day, to see all the blessings from my day. And I'll just write, thank you for this, thank you for that, thank you for this. And it could be just anything I'm thankful for in my life or throughout the day. It helps me reflect on my day. Even if I'm not expanding on it, I still, write thanks for it. So my recommendation is start with a habit. And after you start with a habit, it starts creating itself into your routine. It starts developing into what is fitting for you and what you find joy in. The point of beginning with a habit is you take the time to set aside time for what you want to do. And when you start doing that and it builds into your routine, it's because you've set aside that time and that's become natural for you. And you get to continue doing that, and that routine plays into so much of your life, with the intent of it being a good habit. And as that routine becomes something more on a deeper level for you, then it turns to ritual, and then you get a lot more out of it because you're putting more awareness and intent into it. It's not just, okay, this is how I begin my day. It's more of, this is how my day will walk in my life. This is how I choose to be throughout my life. This is the intent that I want to set for my entire day. And you become more intentional with it. So I want you to pick out a good habit. Don't pick a bad habit that you would like to start. Pick a good habit of one thing. Just start with even one thing that you would like to add to the beginning of your day, and start with one thing to add to the end of your day. And if you think you have no time, we all have time to add a 5-minute habit into our day. And once you realize you can add in that 5 minutes of time, you realize how it might get longer and longer as you develop the routine. And like with my ritual, it might be 30 minutes, it might be 60 minutes. I love the 60 minutes because then I can really deep dive. But I am also aware that my son might wake up earlier and be ready for breakfast right then. And it's like, you know what? It's a good stopping point. So think about how many minutes are in the day. I mean, if you multiply how many minutes are in a day, so that would be 60 minutes in an hour. So 60 times 24 hours in the day. That's how many minutes are in the day. And when you look at that and you think of starting a habit that's 5 minutes long in the morning and 5 minutes long at night, that's 10 minutes out of all those minutes you just calculated for within the day. So you can do it. I can do it, and I've done it, and I love it. And once you find that peace and harmony within that habit, building to routine to ritual, you find that enjoyment of setting fulfilling time aside for yourself. If you need to, even write it down as a schedule, but make it purposeful, make it intentional, and see the beauty in what you're doing for yourself. See the beauty that this new habit is going to create in your life. It could be, say, meditating for 5 minutes and you just set the clock, or journaling for 5 minutes, or dancing to one song. Something as simple as that, that will just, it kind of jiggles up your energy and shifts it, and it shifts to a new place. And I say it's nice too to set a timer, or even if, say, you're dancing or singing to a song, it's a certain amount of time, But when I started doing my 60 minutes in the morning, I would set a timer for 10 minutes for each thing I was doing. And the things I kept within my routine would be the things that I spent the most time on. So I noticed I wanted to meditate longer. I noticed I wanted to write longer, and I noticed that I wanted to read longer. So set a timer for what you choose. And the first week, set it for 5 minutes a day. And then see if you start going over those 5 minutes. And the next week, set it for 10 minutes in that day, in that morning or night. And see if you want to do that longer. I would say, a great routine is 30 to 60 minutes. If you feel like you don't have 30 to 60 minutes, then try at least to get up to 15 minutes, even 20. Some of the other things, it could even just be walking. If you're walking for, say, 20 minutes, the things that you think about on a walk, the things that, you ponder on a walk, that you resonate and reflect on a walk, are actually like a type of meditation. You kind of, in a way, the rhythm of the walk is zoning you into that meditative mindset, and you're really getting a lot from it. You're getting the exercise for your body, you're getting the thoughtfulness in your mind, and you're getting just that peaceful sense in your spirit. So that's even another good thing to do. But at the same time, if you're going on a walk, yes, you could listen to something that is going to give you value, but it's also really good to just walk in silence sometimes and take in everything that's coming into you, and just find the peace in that. There's so much peace in just being for a minute. But it's also, I know there's like a lot of cool stuff that you can learn and educate yourself on. That's a 20-minute, say, podcast episode, or a 20-minute whatever it is, audiobook. It could be whatever. But yes, that's great to do on a walk too, because you've set aside the 20 minutes. But just be with yourself sometimes. And that's one of the things too, where sometimes we don't set the habit or the routine of scheduling time for ourselves, because sometimes just being with yourself is, I don't want to say scary, but in our society, we're not used to it in a way. We're not used to pausing and enjoying that time with ourselves, because this is, like with society, usually it's like a very go, 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 go society. And so you're always packing in so many things, but unpack some of that and sit and be with yourself. Become your own best friend. You're with yourself for life. So you want to take time to be your own best friend. And you want to take the time to care for your own best friend, because if you saw your best friend overpacked in all the things they needed to do, you would want to help them out, or, even just give them the advice to set time aside for themselves. So when you think of being your own best friend, you would want to set that time aside for yourself. You would want to set that time to really love on yourself. It's self-love when you're standing in a routine, when you're creating a habit, when you're creating, the ritual. You're really loving on yourself to set that time aside. So I want you to pick that one thing you want to become a habit and see how it goes for the week. And I hope you have a beautiful day and a wonderful week, and take care.